Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I have some other instruments to show you today, and so they're a little different. I may have had one or two of them in here before, but certainly not all of them. Some of them are new. And these are really straight instruments. Some of them are made by the same company. Let me just take one here and I'll explain it to you. These are straight or actually slightly conical because it comes to a little bit of a point. It's not completely like a tube, but pretty much like a tube. And that's all it is. It has your tone holes in the front. These tone holes are raised. If you can take a look at that, they're raised. That's supposed to make it easier for your hands to find or your fingers to find the right notes. It has a fipple mouthpiece like most of the recorders do. These are a little like a whistle. It has your labium. And you don't see a block. Everything is blocked off on the inside as it should be, but you don't see that. And on the back, you have two little places where you would put your thumbs. The left hand always goes on top, so the left hand thumb would be right here. And then the right hand thumb is going to be right here, so you do have a place. Now, some of these instruments are, I think, made by the same company, even though they bear a different name, because there's so much alike that it's almost ridiculous. So let me show you. This is a Melody. You probably, that's the brand name. I have several of these. They're called Melody. Now, they do play some, but you're not gonna write home about it. You know, it's not gonna be that great. But let me just play these. You obviously see that last note is sharp. I don't know whether they didn't get the hole in the right spot. They might have just not got the hole in the right spot, because if it was down a little lower, I think it would have the right pitch. You can get up to this with the two fingers with the higher notes. This is better. You see, some of those notes are out of pitch. So therefore, you wouldn't be able to use it for any kind of solo work. However, some of them do play better than others. Now, that's a Melody. Here you have a Melody. You can probably see, well, I don't know if you can see it, but they're all printed right onto the front. The same deal, and it's probably going to sound exactly the same. You see how that is? And it stops at that, what I would consider to be an A, just like the other one did. When you go from one register to the other, you can see how out of pitch it really is. So that's also a Melody. You understand, of course, that these cost me practically nothing. Here's another Melody. It's green. One of my favorite colors is green. They all sound alike, but they're all produced by the same company. But they are good to look at. They're pretty. Kids like them because of the color, and they can make some sound out of them. Now, this little guy here, let me see. Yeah, this is another Melody. It'll sound the same, but we'll try it. Sounds a little odd, doesn't it? It's another Melody, but they're all brightly colored. Now I have three others here. This is a Dixie, not a Melody, but a Dixie. It looks exactly like the Melodies, the raised keys. the same kind of mouthpiece. The two places where you put your hands, your thumbs. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if it sounds the same. I think it has a different name on it, but I think it's probably produced by the same company, although I can't prove it. That low D squeaks. It actually has a little more power, has a little more volume than the others did. So I guess I can't speak too soon about who made it. But at any rate, that it happens to be a Dixie. Now, this is, who knows? It doesn't have any brand name on it, whatever. There's no way I can figure out where it came from or how it was made or anything, but it's got some of the same characteristics as the others have. There's a little piece of plastic sticking in the way that shouldn't be there. I don't know if it'll affect the tone, but we'll find out. Actually, its pitch is a little better than those that are marked. It's all about the same quality, though, but this has no markings on it at all. But I do want to show you this one, the last one I brought in. This is a Pro Piper. The Pro Piper is really quite good. I was amazed when I bought it. I was so happy with it, I went out and I bought a couple more because I'd like to show them. But this plays very well in the key of E flat. I've played solos in the key of E flat using nothing more than an instrument like this Pro Piper, that cost me, believe it or not, $1.98. So, not bad for $1.98. See, this is significantly better than the others. It gets a little squealy on the top, but it maintains its pitch. Now, what you need to do when you're buying an instrument, you need to know that it is in pitch with itself. In other words, if I play a high D, the notes need to be in pitch with themselves. If I go from a B to a G, that needs to be a true third, and it is. If I go from a G to an F sharp, it's perfect pitch. But this is, of course, a much more expensive recorder. But you need to know that the instrument is in pitch with itself. The other thing is it needs to be in pitch with everybody else. It needs to be in pitch, which is called A440. A is a string on a violin. It's the A string, and if you pluck it, it plays A. Now, the A goes 440 vibrations, 440 vibrations per second. And all orchestras tune to A440. If your instrument can't tune to A440, then it's going to be out of pitch. So these instruments all do. Most of the instruments all do. It's been different notes at different years in history, but it's been A440 for like immemorial time and for years and years. And so we pitch to that. An orchestra will pitch for that. If you go to an orchestra concert, a violinist will get up and they'll play A. And then all of the instruments tune to that A. If they tune to that A, then they're going to be in pitch. So you have to have an instrument that's in pitch with itself, and it's also in pitch with A440. And most instruments are. Now, when you get these little things that aren't very expensive, then heaven knows what they're pitched in. You know, sometimes they're really off pitch, but the more expensive instruments are just right. So I'm going to go from here to playing another piece, but this piece is going to be on this side, and this, instead of being 3/4 time, which is what I did last segment, this is kind of like a march. And the interesting thing is it's got 8th notes, 16th notes, and quarter notes. And I do want to get you experienced in that. So let me just, I'll play that. It's going to sound like it's going to sound somewhat like a march. So here we go with that. And it's in the key of G, 1 sharp. Now you can tell, if we just take, when we start to practice, you start to practice slow. Here is 1 beat. This is the first beat. This is 4/4 time. So there's got to be 4 beats to each measure. And here they are. This is the first beat. Then these 2 8th notes are the second beat. Then these 2 8th notes are the third beat. And then that D, which is a quarter note, is the 4th beat. That 4/4 time means that there are 4 beats to a measure, and it's equivalent to having 4 quarter notes. That 4 indicates quarter notes to the measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4. When you get to the second measure, you have your 1 beat with the 16th notes, and then you have 1 beat with the 2 8th notes. But this is a half note, so that's going to take up the other 2 beats. So I'm going to play this slow. I'd like to have you look at this. I hope it'll be kind of clear. And you try to count out the beats in your mind to what I'm playing. The disadvantage of having woodwinds and brass, playing woodwinds and brass, is that you can't count it out as you're playing. If I were playing guitar or piano or some other stringed instruments where I didn't have something in my mouth, I could do that. As a matter of fact, I know piano teachers that have their students count out the time as they are playing it, so they get really used to it. Now that doesn't continue forever. That's just while you're learning the piece, and then when you're used to it, you don't count out loud because it's all in your mind anyway. So we'll start on that first line, and we'll start with those 4 16th notes. Remember, 4 16th notes equals 1 beat. The 8th notes, 2 of them equal 1 beat. The 8th notes, 2 of them equal another beat. And then you have the 4th beat, which is a quarter note. This is pretty much repeated here, except you have only 1 set of 8th notes, and then you have that half note, which takes up the other 2 beats. So I'm going to play that first line, but I'm going to play it slow. And if you just kind of count it out in your mind, well, count it out loud. Here we go. Now, if you were learning how to play this, I would start you very, very slow, and you'd be counting in your mind as you're playing it. Once you get one, I would have you do it 1 measure at a time. Once you get this accomplished, once you get that, so you could do that and you understood the timing, 16th notes, 8th notes, 8th notes, and a quarter, then we'd start on the second measure, which would be the 16th notes, 8th notes, and a half. Now this pattern of this kind of writing continues basically throughout the whole song, but I'm still going to play it slow and then stop at certain points to show you things. Now I want to show you on that last measure over here, I go do an octave. This is a low D, and this is a higher D. It's actually the highest D that the instrument can get. And then you have another set of 16th notes in the quarter. How do I play from one octave to another octave on those low Ds? Well, the low D is all fingers down. B, A, G, F, E, D. This is one of the first things I always teach on a recorder or any other instrument. So B, A, G, F, E, D. So with the thumb hole covered, that's the low D. Now the proper way of getting the high D is to take all the notes off except for this one. The only hole I have covered on that high D is this middle finger. The top note is not covered. The middle finger is, and there's nothing else covered. That's how you get it. Now, there is an alternate fingering that I often use, and it's the way that the flute plays it, because the flute plays it differently. But some instruments can do it and some instruments can't. I am a great fan of alternative fingerings if they work, if the instrument can do it. Instead of taking every finger off, which actually puts your instrument in danger of being dropped, although you would have your little finger down here for support. It's not doing anything, but it just supports it so that you won't drop the instrument. But isn't it easier? Just lift that top finger off, and you've got the low D to the high D. This is the way the flute does it. Now, it would be an alternative fingering for the recorder, because the recorder, you don't usually play it that way, and you don't teach it that way. You teach it in a way that's what it's supposed to be. But if it works, it works, you know, and if your instrument can't do it, then you don't do it. But if you can do it, then you have an alternative if you want to use one. Since there are 3 high Ds here, right here, I prefer the alternative fingering. And then you go to the B, G, A, E, D. That's actually an arpeggio. If you could play it separately or play it all together, you would have a chord. Do it either way. I just did it both ways. So, and then it repeats itself, and there's a little bit of difference here, but the main theme repeats itself. Now, the fingerings for these notes here, they're kind of hard. I mean, to do it fast, you really got to know what you're doing. So when you play it very slowly. And I'm looking right here at this E and on through this line. If you want to do it the regular way, I still think the flute fingering is easier. So it takes some fooling around, but it's something that you can learn to play. I have a lot more music that I have. Oh, one thing that I did want to Somebody asked me, the director asked me, can I change this to a waltz? This is a march. Can I change it to a waltz by using 3/4 time or 6/8 time instead of the 4/4? And of course I can. But it won't sound exactly the same, but the notes will be the same. So I'll play a little bit of it like it's a waltz. That's the same basic song, but the timing is different because I've changed the timing, the timing signature from 3/4 to, from 4/4 to 3/4. Well, I'm going to close it here. We're about out of time, and we're going to continue. You're going to learn how to play, and we're going to continue, and I'll show you instruments as I think the weather is safe enough for me to bring in. And so hopefully we'll see you next time. Please join me then.